Hello and welcome to Channel Sports this morning. Many thanks for joining us again. I am Tayo Salam. This is what the show looks like. We're starting off with handball, and later on, or in the course of the program, the Nigeria Handball Federation president will be joining us to tell us about the plans for the development of the sport in the next 4 years. So we're setting an agenda for handball developments on Channel Sports this morning. Also on the program, this time around in Europe, where Germany have become the first team to qualify for the Qatar 2022 FIFA World Cup with 2 games to spare. Still in sport this morning, in boxing, Deontay Wilder has no plans of retiring after losing to Tyson Fury in their trilogy bout. That's according to his trainer, Scott Malik. Stick with us for all of these and more on the show for the next 55 minutes. I've got Dami in the house again. Dami, good morning. Always great to have you on the show.
Yeah, Tyler, pleasure being here. Good morning.
Indeed. Now let's go to boxing and give you updates coming from the camp of Deontay Wilder. We're still here to hear from Wilder. He hasn't said a lot since being knocked out by Tyson Fury in the trilogy bout. But his trainer is talking. I'm talking about Malik Scott. It says there's absolutely no plans for Deontay Wilder to retire despite what happened on Saturday night in Las Vegas. It says Deontay has set his family financially secure, so it doesn't have to fight making a living or to make a living. But retiring is not in his plans at all and not something we have discussed.
The last line is important. Not something we have discussed, but not something we will not discuss.
Indeed, indeed. Very instructive, right.
At some point, they might still have that conversation.
But right now, no discussions whatsoever on quitting professional boxing.
It's a bit too early to start making those decisions.
Yeah, but everyone is saying that already, people, fans.
Because of the height he had got into. I mean, if you have been WBC champion for 5 years, you were able to defend the title for 5 years, and now you've lost to. But it's important to also know that Deontay Wilder had not lost to 2 different boxers. He had only lost to 1.
Same guy.
Which means that he still has a chance against every other person.
Indeed.
I mean, so I wouldn't be too much in a hurry to expect him to retire, although age is not on his side.
It's going to be 36.
But then. But the moment it becomes a reality that it might not be the big name player anymore, for a Deontay Wilder to now be an undercard boxer would be a terrible thing. At that point, retirement should be the next option.
Indeed, indeed, and very interesting you mentioned that because Malik Scott also said that Deontay Wilder only belongs to the headline events, and apparently that's their target. If Deontay Wilder doesn't get this kind of fight again, he might just start to think about retiring. Indeed, Malik Scott also spoke about the fight, how it went down, and paid and showed a lot of respect to Tyson Fury. It says, and I quote, Deontay Wilder was great on Saturday, but Tyson Fury was even greater. It was a great night of boxing for the heavyweight division. You've got to give credit to Fury for having a good chin and getting up. Fury is a legend and one of the best in the heavyweight division in any era. It is the same about Deontay Wilder. Very classy coming, magnanimous coming from Malik Scott.
If you saw the fight, there is no doubt about it. The better boxer on the night won. Even though they both gave a good show. And I think it's good advertisement for the heavyweight division.
Indeed.
But then, as at this moment, there is no doubt again about it. If the first one was a draw, the second one, there were excuses for the loss. The third one was emphatic. And so it's all over.
It's all over. The saga is concluded thanks to the Gypsy King with that incredible knockout in the 11th round. Moving away from the ring, that's boxing, let's go to the court. That's basketball this time around. And to give you updates coming from the preseason games played last night and early this morning. All teams still getting ready for tip-off on October the 19th. Some of the results for you, the Toronto Raptors were in action against the Houston Rockets, and they won that game 107-92. Precious Achiuwa, the Tigers forward, started a game, scored 17 points, grabbed 5 rebounds, and stole the ball once. Elsewhere, it was a 1-point victory for the Miami Heat over the Charlotte Hornets 104 to 103. Bam Adebayo with 18 points, 5 rebounds, and 1 assist. The Nets were blown out by the 76ers, 115 to 104. Kevin Durant played in that game, finished with 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 1 assist. While the Grizzlies also blew out the Detroit Pistons 127 to 92. Ja Morant 24 points, 2 rebounds, and 5 assists. Elsewhere, there were wins for the Utah Jazz 127 to 96 over the Pelicans, while the Sacramento Kings were in action and they defeated the Portland Trail Blazers 107 to 93. Last but not the least is the Timberwolves defeating the Clippers 128 to 100. We're going to focus quickly on the matchup between the Nets and the 76ers, two of the top contenders in the Eastern Conference. They might be going all the way into the finals again. Who knows? But the story concerning the Nets is the fact that Kyrie Irving is back training with the team now, Dami. But he couldn't play this game because of the New York mandate, COVID-19 mandates in New York, where you've got to have at least 1 shot of the jab to play at the at the Barclays Center. Kyrie is refusing to do that, and as it is right now, once the season starts, he will miss all of their home games. It's such a distraction for a team hoping to win the NBA championship.
It is a major distraction, and I think his team would have to probably sit him down at some point and really talk to him.
They've been talking for over 2 months now.
Well, you can't stop talking.
Wow.
You can't stop talking. I understand the part of, as an individual, you want to be the one to make the final decision on your body.
Yeah,
I understand.
Fair enough.
But again, you also have to respect the fact that you're going to play, you have colleagues and then you have opponents. They must feel safe having you around them. That also counts.
Okay.
And so where your freedom ends is where others will probably, freedom also starts from. So I think there will be a compromise at some point. But a compromise cannot be at a point where anybody's health will be jeopardized because of your own choice. That's my position.
Compromise, I like that word that you've used. So initially, Dami, Kyrie wasn't allowed to train at the Barclays Center. A few months down the line, now he's been allowed to train at the Barclays Center. Are you sure we're not heading towards, eventually, the mandates in New York, like you said, compromise, and would find Kyrie playing eventually if he can do other things? I mean, there are other protocols in place for COVID even before the vaccine was ever made.
Yeah, that was before the vaccine was ever made. But I feel that if he had his way 100%, you're setting a wrong precedent as well. If they have shifted for him, at some point you're not training, now you're training. At some point, you must also be ready to make some shift. And they're not saying the 2 jabs, at least 1. For you to be able. But for some reason, he's saying no. And again, his choice is respected.
Yeah.
He has the right. But then you also have to look at the flip side. What if tomorrow he's infected and then he infects some other persons? And we are talking about a disease that has a tendency to kill, no matter how little the chances have, but that little chance is something. And he must also acknowledge the fact that the safety of everybody is also important. How do you want to come into a room and everybody wants to excuse you because they don't feel safe around you?
Hopefully everyone have their job already, so they shouldn't have anything to worry about, right?
If they don't, we'll be having a bigger conversation than now. Kali is the only one.
I mean, like, if he comes into a room filled with people with their jobs already vaccinated, any reason to be worried? I mean, for all these other people?
Well, I'm not a doctor.
You're not a doctor, right?
But from what we've heard, it's not 100% proof. You still have to follow certain protocols.
Indeed, indeed. Anyways, we'll keep an eye on that situation, but as it is right now, Kyrie Irving, you know, 1/3 of the big 3 in Brooklyn cannot play home games for the Brooklyn Nets. He cannot play against the New York Knicks as well, to 2 away games at the Madison Square Garden because of the COVID-19 vaccination mandates in the city. All right, that's it for basketball for now. Let's go to the courts, still on the courts this time around. Let's talk about handball. I told you at the start of the show that we will be setting an agenda for the new board of handball in the country. And we have Samuel Ochewu in the house now. Okay, not in the house. He's going to be joining us virtually to tell us all about the plans for the development of the sports in the next 4 years. Samuel, good morning. It's great to have you in sport this morning.
Good morning, and how are you?
Very well, thank you. Where are you at the moment? It looks like you're at Roe Park. It looks very familiar. I'm not so sure.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. Very right.
Okay, so what's going on? First of all, what's going on there?
I just came around to watch the team's training. I mean, with handball, wherever handball is played, we try to go around. So I just came into Roe Park, and naturally I can see some people training handball at the moment.
All right, fantastic. We're going to get back to all your plans for the development of the sport later on. But before then, first of all, I'd like to congratulate you as well for retaining your sports as the president of the federation. And can you tell us about your constitution? When is it likely to be ratified by the international body?
Thank you very much, and thank you for wishing me all the luck and all the goodies. In terms of the constitution, I think from a federation aspect, we've done what we needed to do, and that the constitution has been stuck in terms of approval. We've actually sent it to our international federation, and they have come back with a clause that we need to remove. We're currently in engagement with the sport ministry on that same clause, which was mandatory for all federations. I believe we've been given the next 6 months to ensure that we all put our constitution in order, and I believe we're going to meet with the deadline.
Fantastic. We're looking forward to when that is going to be done and dusted. Let's move on now and talk about the development of the sport. Obviously, anyone that has been watching and following handball the last couple of years will attest to the fact that you guys have made some strides in terms of developing the sport. Now, going into your next tenure, I believe it's consolidation times. Tell us about that and more.
You're actually right. It's time for consolidation. Over the last 4 years, we've tried to raise handball to a certain level. What we're going to be doing over the next 4 years is to try and build over what we've done in the last 4 years. We've set the foundation. It's now time to start laying the blocks, and everything is going to be focused on consolidating and trying to achieve more for the game of handball.
Indeed. Can we get specifics now in terms of the things you intend to do in the next 4 years?
Well, over the last 4 years, like I said earlier, in terms of specifics, we made sure that all our competitions came back. We went out there looking for sponsors. We ensured that we did some technical trainings for the coaches and the referees. I think we're going to build on that the next 4 years. We're going to ensure that our competitions continue, especially the under-8 competitions, which are for us is the bedrock of developing future players, and which those competitions actually represent the competition for the grassroots. And so because we want to start developing handball even at the grassroots and at the local levels, we must ensure that we have the right competitions that can unearth these budding talents that are hidden, which is why we must continue with our under 12 games. We must continue with our under 15. We must also continue with our under 18 and our under 21. Then we won't forget that the Premier League is the highest league, and the National Division 1 League. Those must also continue. We're going to look at how we can add 1 or 2 more competitions to ensure that there are more competitions in the country for handballers to play. On the technical side, we're going to ensure constant training for the coaches and the referees. Yeah?
Samuel, can you just kindly hold your thoughts? We need to go on a break now. When we come back, we'll let you conclude what you're about to say and what you were saying. Join us again. Welcome back to Channel Sport this morning. We still have Samuel Oche, who is the president of the Handball Federation of Nigeria, telling us all about their plans for the next 4 years for the development of the sport. Samuel, before we went on the break, we were talking about a couple more competitions to add to what you have in existence already. You're also talking about the technical side of things.
Yeah, I was talking about the technical side. I said we're going to ensure constant training for the coaches and the referees to add back to our technical know-how. That is the only way we can develop the teams, because if the coaches and the referees are very knowledgeable in the game, then it naturally translates to the players. So we're going to look at how we can partner with the Confederation of African Handball and the International Handball Federation to bring technocrats who can help develop our talent, our technical personnel in Nigeria. Key to all this is the ability to attract finance. So we are going to ensure that we look for more sponsors to add to our bouquet of sponsors that currently exist, and ensure that the game, we do not suffer financial burden because we're trying to organize competition. So it is very key that in the next 4 years we add additional sponsors to our bouquet of sponsors.
Indeed, it's a holistic package situation for the Handball Federation in Nigeria. Before we let you go, what about internationally? I mean, internationally, what are the plans? The national teams, they're going to be competing in any competitions in the next couple of years?
Well, naturally, internationally, we want to remain relevant. While we are trying to be locally relevant, we must also be relevant internationally. We have the African Nations Cup coming up in January, Paris, Morocco, and we intend to be part of that tournament.
Wow. Fantastic. Samuel, I want to thank you for making our time to join us. You can go back to enjoying the rest of the games at the Roof Park right there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
There you have Samuel Oche, the president of the Nigeria Handball Federation, telling us all about their plans for the next 4 years. Dami, you have to say handball, one of those federations that have been making, relative progress in the last couple of years, right?
Yes, and I think for Samuel Ocheo, a second term for him is a confirmation of how well the Federation did under him the first 4 years.
True.
The Handball Federation was very active. The leagues were active, both the Premier League and the First Division. And it must also be said that even despite COVID, they found a way to still have the Premier League by splitting it into different and then having the final in Lagos, which was still something brilliant. I hope we will build on that. I hope we'll build on that. I hope the usual thing that you have in this part, where the first tenure there is usually a huge buzz, and then second term is like everything just goes into a lull, will not affect handball. Because really, for a few of the Federation president that are back, that's my only really concerned, that I hope they will not
don't rest on their laurels.
Thinking that, I mean, this is my last term and all that. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the person that is in the office. It's about the love for the sport and the legacy you want to leave behind.
Indeed. I think you're spot on, and it has to be said, handball, they seem to have hit the ground running. They're not resting on the laurels at all. That's because the Premier League is already going to start at the end of the month. So they're not waiting around.
Yeah, they're not waiting around, at least as far as that is concerned.
Exactly. Other things, of course, will have to come into play as well. Yes. So we'll continue to definitely monitor the situation in handball in the country, and we'll be giving you all of the updates that you need to know about. So still talking about sports in the country. This time around, let's go and see what's happening at the Karate Federation. There's a new board in place now. It's a new dispensation for a lot of the sports because the elections just went down a couple of weeks ago. And for the Karate Federation of Nigeria, it says they will hit the ground running with a regional karate championship to aid the growth of the sport from the grassroots. Vice President of the Federation, Oborodudu Bello, stated that the Silas Agara-led board is putting in place programs to turn around the fortunes of karate in the country. It says the regional karate championship, which will hold at the 6 geopolitical zones of the country, will not only help improve the overall rankings of karateka, but also ensure a rapid growth of the sport. Let's get more from Oborodudu Bello.
The focus from my president, Honorable Silas Agara, is that we are going to ensure more active regional karate and grassroots karate development. What I mean is that from each of the 6 geopolitical zones, we're going to be having more activities, more events, and this is to basically develop the grassroots. At the same time, bring in talents from all the grassroots. Apart from that, we also are looking at improving the overall ranking of our athletes in preparation for the forthcoming Olympics. We need to build the value orientations of our youth in this country. We need to take them away from things that will harm them to something that is more useful. And karate is one wonderful thing that can help them. And we also have programs coming up next year where we intend to develop skills within the karate community that will also empower them to be able to earn income on their own.
Oborodudu Bello, the Vice President of the Karate Federation of Nigeria, telling everyone that cares to listen about their plans for development of the sport in the next 4 years. Karate, you're a fan?
Especially. I'm usually worried when it comes to fight sports, but then some people are interested, and
Indeed,
you just have to encourage them. And karate is not a bad sport, really. At least it's still better than UFC.
Indeed, I was seeing pictures also some young karatekers in action, and he's spoken very well as well to regional competitions. That's what they intend to do. Karate is still not, just still miles away from the very top when it comes to karate. So they have their work cut out, but you can only start somewhere, and that's what they intend to do. Starting with this regional competition.
For me, it's a good idea. I love when the federation has a program. I mean, just last week, I think on Friday, the new federations were inaugurated.
Yeah.
And it's good to hear from, at least at the highest level, the vice president talking about their programs, even into next year. But it's important that the federations also look at how to assess finance, because that has been the major problem. If they cannot attract finance, then that program might not see the light of day. And,
Indeed.
That is important. I hope they're also having that at the back of their mind. And when I talk finance, it's not about depending on the sports ministry.
Nope.
The federation must be able to attract finance from corporate Nigeria.
The sports on. The federation, they're not just there to administer the sport, they're there to market it as well. So that's why they need to put together a very solid team so they can execute all of these programs, because there's no point having the programs and you can't execute because of financial reasons. And you heard Samuel Ocho talked about attracting more sponsors for what they have already. So hopefully the Karate Federation can do similar. We're still talking Nigeria sports. At this time, let's go to basketball, where unlike handball and karate and all the other sports where we know where the elections have taken place already, and we know the new board, basketball zone is going to happen at the end of the month. That's October 30th, to be precise, on Saturday. That was the agreement or the decision that was reached at the Congress that was held just a couple of days ago. So 30th of October on Saturday, there's going to be an election, and it'll be very interesting to see if the current or the former president, Musa Kida, returns to that particular position.
Without any doubt, in the last 4 years, we've made progress in basketball, despite the challenges. I mean, if you look at the ratings of our national teams, both men and women, if you look at the Division 1 league, I know the Premier League has been here or there, but that has been largely because of court cases impeding that.
Yeah.
I know you don't want to hear that. But, I mean, it will be unfair on the board to say that we've not made moves in the last 4 years. We've made progress.
True.
And I think this particular election, we say a lot about where we want basketball to go. I hope this election, whatever the outcome, will not derail the successes we've achieved, whether Kida returns or is another board.
Yeah.
Because for me as a journalist, I'm not so much about the individual. It's about the people that can develop Nigerian sport, that can take it to the next level.
Right.
And so whoever the stakeholders, the delegate thinks is the right person to take us to the next level, I wish them all the best. But it's important that it will be a disaster if in 4 years' time we have to retrogress and not make progress in basketball.
Nah, that would not be good at all. I was seeing pictures are coming from the extraordinary Congress that was held in Abuja, where they ratified Benin as a host city for the elections on the 30th of October. It's going to be chaired by Larry Glover. Glover is going to be assisted by Mohammed Sani Fema, while Femi Olugbeli, as well as Awa Kuluakiemi, will be members. Manuel Okigbe will act as the secretary of the committee. The Congress also approved the appointment of Ize Matibese as chairman of the 2021 NBBF Electoral Appeals Committee, alongside General David Lubo as member and Emmanuel Zira as secretary. All stakeholders were requested to submit any observations for addition or amendments to the Constitution for processing according to Article 38 of the NBBF approved Constitution. So October the 30th, hopefully it all goes smoothly and no court cases afterwards. We know what has happened with this particular federation in the last few years, man. And that has contributed to the underdevelopment of the sport, that has to be said.
I think sometimes it's an appeal we can make to the contestants that if indeed you love the sport, I'm not saying that if you have a reason to raise an eyebrow, you shouldn't. But sometimes when you know that your action is going to hurt the sport more, then the question is of what good is it going to be? And so if you have anything to raise, this is the time to raise it, so that everything can be put in place for the election. And you can also appeal that let the sport ministry do its job of supervising, and then, of course, the NOC, and ensure that we have a free and fair election that nobody will be able to question.
That's the bottom line, right? Let's go over now to Musa Kida, speaking ahead of the elections on October the 30th.
The Nigerian basketball has gone through a lot within the short span, but the outcome of the results have shown commitment of the board for the greater good of Nigerian basketball. There may be disagreements, Honorable Minister, but the present results have validated the struggle. The key issue here is for all of us to note that NBBF presently has embarked on putting Nigeria first and its players. Despite the hiccups that had motivated some of our clubs to sue the federation, including obtaining injunctions to stop the Premier League from being played, our goal remains to promote strong local competitions and support private individuals, academies, which will continue to organize competitions from time to time. It is our great goal to represent our great country as good ambassadors to the best of our ability, while running an all-inclusive NBBF that we're all proud of. With the support of all and sundry, we can achieve great things. My fellow stakeholders, this is a time to move forward. This is a time for us for greater responsibility and progress. We must come together in truth and discard the mistakes of the past.
You're welcome back. Still talking basketball. This time around, let's move away from the elections at NBBF and tell you that the vice chairman and president of the Toronto Raptors, Masai Ujiri, is in town. He's not in town to vacation. He's in town to continue to enrich the lives of young basketball players. That's because he's in town to unveil basketball courts around the country. He's been to Ijeshatedo already, Ijeshatedo Grammar School, right in Lagos, to unveil the very first one and more. There's still more to come before the end of his visits. We talk about developing the sport. There is no development without having the right facilities, right? Indeed.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's also important that when people that have played the game, people that believe that they have a stake in the game, do something about the game. It's not enough to complain. It's not enough to just come out and criticize people and say they should.
What are you doing about it?
What are you doing about it? And that's a question nobody can ask Masai Ujiri, because what he's doing about it is obvious for all to see.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I also think that these are the kind of moves that you also expect that when individuals make, the federations must show. The support must be visible.
Exactly.
The support cannot be in theory. It must be visible. It would be nice to get a statement, for example, from the MBBF applauding this move.
Maybe they're busy with the elections.
No, somebody is in charge. You can't be too busy for that. Because
I agree.
I mean, he's even based in the U.S. The courts are here, the facilities are here. Of whose use is it going to be?
For Nigeria.
It's for Nigeria. And who is in charge of the sport in Nigeria? Is the Nigerian Basketball Federation.
I agree.
And so it's important that must also be done. I credit to him, kudos to him. It's not the first time. And God willing, it's definitely not going to be the last time. He's putting his money where his mouth is, not just talking, but he's showing the example of how it should be done and what should be done.
You're spot on. Masai Ujiri, apart from being the chairman, vice chairman, and president of the Toronto Raptors, is also the founder of the Giants of Africa Foundation. Foundation obviously helps to develop basketball in the country and Africa as a whole. Ujiri's unveiling of the new courts are part of the foundation's build initiative, a multi-year investments in building and refurbishing 100 courts across the continent. Since 2003, Giants of Africa has used sports to help empower the youth to dream big, hosting basketball camps and clinics for boys and girls in 17 countries in Africa. Last month, Giants of Africa launched the 100 Courts Initiative and unveiled facilities in Kenya and Tanzania. Let's take a listen now to Masai Ujiri talking about all of these plans to continue to help the sports develop in Nigeria and Africa.
Well, Africa Warrior Foundation, you know that I've done basketball camps, clinics. We've used basketball as a tool to grow and to build. And we're trying to build courts. This is what we're trying to do. And whoever we can partner with, whoever we can grow with, institutions that we can grow with, we're open and we're ready, you know, because the kids need places like this to play. It is, for us, it's an obligation. For me, it's an obligation with my job, where I am, with the growth of so many basketball players from Nigeria, the talent on the continent, especially in Nigeria. I think we need to build more infrastructure. Generally, it's for youth to grow, youth to find a place to play. When I was growing up, we had the access to an unbelievable basketball court in Ahmadu Bello University. And that's where I grew up playing, becoming a basketball player, learning to play the game. And it gave me access. It gave me access to people, it gave me access to education, it gave me access to an unbelievable game that totally changed my life. And I believe sports can change a lot of youth's life. They don't have to be basketball players. They can end up working in everything that they want to do and use sports, you know, like as a pathway for them.
Welcome back to Channel Sport this morning, to the world of wrestling, amateur wrestling to be precise, where there's news concerning Nigeria's Olympic silver medalist. I'm talking about Blessing Oborodudu. She's been elected into the United World Wrestling Athletes Commission as Africa's sole representative for the next 4 years, starting from 2021 to 2025. The 10-time African champion polled 90 votes from 397 athletes who participated in the election during the 2021 World Championships in Oslo, Norway. The 32-year-old Commonwealth gold medalist will join 6 other wrestlers from Europe, that's 2, Asia 2, Americas and Oceania in the Athletes Commission. A statement from the United World Wrestling says the 7 members will conduct a separate election on a yet-to-be-determined date to choose their chairperson. Oborodudu made history in August by becoming the country's first Olympic medalist in wrestling after claiming silver in the 68 kg category at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Fantastic news coming from the wrestling world, and Blessing Oborodudu.
Fantastic, brilliant one. The biggest kudos you could get is when your own colleagues decide that you're worthy of an honor, and they're the ones that actually voted you into that position. It's a brilliant one because it's one slot for Africa, and worthy enough is coming to a record maker, because for me, I'll call it a record maker. Awesome. If you have won the African Championship 10 times, and then you are the first to win a medal for your country in the Olympics in that sport, then you deserve all the honor. And I think that's what she's getting now. It also shows how well wrestling has grown in the last 4 years under Daniel Igali. And that kudos as well must be given to the Federation. They've given a face to Nigerian wrestlers because they are competing regularly. And they're not just competing, they are well prepared and they are winning. And that's where this is coming from. Imagine with all her talent, if she had not achieved what she had achieved on the mat, she probably would not be she would not be in a position to be elected. True. Whatever transferred into this Athletes Commission came from a performance as a wrestler.
Yeah. Congratulations to Blessing Oborodudu on her election into the United World Wrestling Athletes Commission. Let's move away from boxing. Let's go talk some football now and tell you that Germany are the first country to qualify for the FIFA 2022 World Cup in Qatar after they defeated Macedonia by 4-0. Timo Werner scored twice. Kai Havertz was also on target. And the young star Jamal Musiala secured Germany's 5th win in the 5th game under new coach Hansi Flick. They've got 21 points. It's unassailable. Whatever happens in the remaining 2 games wouldn't matter at all. Germany are returning to the World Cup next year. I mean, Germany, we saw what happened at the what's it called, last World Cup. Terrible World Cup.
Terrible.
Were knocked out. We saw what happened at the Euros as well, too. At the time, it was starting to look like the former coach, Joachim Low, Incidentally, he was in charge when they lost in Germany to this same Northern Macedonia as well. So at the time, it became obvious that this guy had overstayed his welcome. Eventually, they made that move. Hansi Flick is taking over. We're starting to see Germany return to their formidable selves.
Germany has returned to their formidable selves. And I think there is a lot to learn from the German approach. Before Joachim Low was Jürgen Klinsmann. Joachim Low was his assistant to the 2006 World Cup that they hosted. As of 2014, Hansi Flick was the assistant to Joachim Low to win that World Cup before he left for the job at Bayern Munich. And so you could see a transition. You could see you're talking about a coach that understands the system and knows the players. And so the immediate return in terms of result is not surprising.
Nope.
The loss to North Macedonia was a major period in German history.
Yeah, it was.
That result is probably worse than Nigeria losing to Sierra.
Of course it is.
It's
comparable.
I had to chip that in. So it was. And they made the right decision, and the result is very clear. And if you study the German approach, one thing that Hansi Flick has brought into the game is that every coach in the Bundesliga, he has an open door policy that if you see the national team player and you think you have an idea, you can call him and give him an idea. He also discusses with them how he wants to use their players so that at their clubs, they can also try those players in those areas so that it does not become a case of you are a defensive midfielder for the national team, you are an attacking midfielder for the club. And that is also paying off for both clubs. An example is Leroy Sané. His position for the German national team is a bit different. And the Bayern Munich is also trying the same approach with him because he discussed it with, again, Newsman, the coach of Bayern.
All right, congratulations to Germany qualifying for the World Cup. They're the first to do just that. All the other teams are still battling to secure the spot in Qatar next year. Still talking football, let's go to the English Premier League and tell you about the new sheriff in town. I'm talking about Claudio Ranieri. That's the new coach of Leicester. He's been speaking about the potential of the team and how confident he is that they will avoid relegation.
To come back in England, Watford is an old club, and then I'm very, very pleased, very happy, and I want to do my best. I think there is a very good players. Then, of course, I have my philosophy, my mentality, and we have to work hard to change a little thing. I start with not all the guys because there are some injured players and there are some international players out of England, and then we are working well, a very good group so far, and I'm very confident.
Very confident, Claudio Ranieri. Dami, Ranieri is back in town. Watford, I mean, they've got some good players. They're struggling, that's why they had to sack Cisco after just 7 games. But it's not a surprise to anyone that has followed the ownership of Watford under the Pozzo family. But now they've got a vastly experienced manager. What are you expecting from him?
I'm expecting a better performance, at least in terms of play. If that would be good enough to get the result, it's a different kettle of fish. You must understand that the Premier League is a lot more competitive than most people will understand. Because I had to look at the teams they will be playing against. Newcastle will probably turn the tide now, if not immediately, at least by January. With the influx of money that had come in. True. And they're probably one of the teams that before now, you probably would think they will be contesting against relegation with. I think his experience will count, but how the players can also deliver will also matter. The team is good enough to survive. But then we've seen better teams get relegated in the Premier League before.
But he has to be said that he's got his work cut out because the Premier League is just that competitive. And like Dami has said, Newcastle, one of essentially the relegation candidates, they've got new money now, and they will be investing seriously in the January transfer window. Talking about Newcastle, unfortunately, when there is new ownership, typically the manager that was there before hardly survives, and that seems to be the case for Steve Bruce. We hear he's on his way out. He's held meetings with the new ownership, and looks like they have decided to get rid of. But the story is the links, or the coaches are being linked with the job now. Eddie Howe, Antonio Conte, and a couple more are being linked with his job. Obviously, we still have enough time to talk about this in the course of our subsequent programs. But for you, it's a shame that Steve Bruce is going to have to go.
I think when the new owner comes in, one of the things that shows the new regime is also the status of the coach.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Steve Bruce is not a manager of that status. If it has still been the current Everton coach, the name just skipped me now, Benitez, that is there, he'll probably survive. But to have Steve Bruce is a different kettle of fish entirely. But again, some of the names that have been mentioned, someone like Lampard, for example. I mean, why not leave Steve Bruce if you want to bring Lampard or Gerrard? That's my feeling, really. But if you can get a Conte, then you are talking.
Then you're talking as a manager. Conte is obviously
then you're talking.
elite. But the likes of Lampard.
I mean, Lampard at Chelsea, the money was there, the players were there. What did he do?
But he's a high-profile personality.
High-profile player, not an high-profile manager.
Okay, that's a fair point. But we've seen the job he did at Chelsea, especially the very first year, before things turned pear-shaped in the second season. Anyways, like I said, no decision has been made yet on Steve Bruce's replacement. As soon as that is done, give it for us to know on Channel Sport this morning. Let's take a look at the papers before we close the show. We're going to start with Complete Sports. And Balogun relishes first Eagles goal in 7 years. I was saying yesterday that he took that goal like a striker on the volley, and that set Nigeria on its way to winning that game against the CAR.
It was a statement match for him, and I'm happy that he made the statement. And what a way to actually, because if he had done a good job as a defender, it would have been good enough. But to cap it with a goal is even more special. Special
indeed, and that's why he's still relishing that goal against the Wild Beasts. Omero is talking as well, so Eagles showed character against CAR. Of course, Nice keen to sign Maduka Okoye. Osimhen is talking as well. I am proud of this Eagles defense's plot audacious move for Bernardo Silva. Let's go to Sporting Live. Is next, Leicester City's September goal of the month. Iheanacho battles Jamie Vardy bans, and 2 others. Central African Republic against Nigeria. Osimhen proud of Super Eagles. Talked about that already. Messi becomes first South American to score 80 international goals. He's obviously going to get 100 before it's all said and done at this rate. Right?
He will most likely get to 100. He will most likely get to 100. But then Messi and record is just something you expect. In his next match, you're probably hoping that what other record is available for him to break.
Yeah, probably in line to break it again.
Yeah.
Indeed. Varane injured. Manchester United, a bit of worry for them now. Rafael Varane getting injured in the UEFA Nations League final between France and Spain. Sporting Sun is the last paper for review. Iheanacho battles Vardy. That's for the goal of the month. Unless Ibrahimovic returns to training next week. Barca still keen on loan move for Sterling. Sterling seems to be out of favor with Pep Guardiola, and Barca have been linked to the forward.
I don't see why Sterling want to leave, but for money. He want to leave Man City.
How about for more playing time?
More playing time.
Doesn't start games a lot these
days. He doesn't start because there's something the coach probably wants from him that is not given. I think it's time for him to just buckle up and add something to his game.
Indeed. All right, this is a very interesting one. Wijnaldum admits, I am not happy at PSG. It's not what I expected. You know what to say about the grass is not always greener on the other side. Seems to be Gigi Wijnaldum's finding out the hard way.
I think he has to deal with it. He has a contract. He's earning more.
He's earning a lot more money now. The money they didn't give it up.
He should enjoy it right last.
Danny, I want to thank you for your time on the show. Your fantastic analysis and all. Appreciate it, mate.
Pleasure being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for watching as well. Enjoy the rest of your day. I am Tayo Salam.